All right, welcome back everyone to Full Circle 2024. Hopefully you got yourselves a nice little break because we're not done for the day yet. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm George Koutanaris from the B2B Playbook. Oh, Pallavi, your mic is you're muted.
I'm sorry about that. Okay. All right. Well, you don't have an online event without somebody speaking with their mic muted, so that we checked that box off as well now. All right, folks, and I'm Pallavi Dhodi, and I am super excited to welcome all of you back to Full Circle. For those of you who are just joining us, thank you for being a part of our event. And today's sessions have been brought to you by our sponsor, Lead Feeder. And we're now in the second track of the event, creating content that drives action. For those of you who missed the earlier action from today, you can catch all the past session replays in the event reception. If you just go back to any of the sessions that have already happened, you can click there and hit play and watch the recordings.
All right. Well, for our next session, I'm very excited about this one. We're going to be talking about content recycling or content repurposing, how you can multiply the impact of your best content without multiplying your workload. Joining us for this session is Steffen Hedebrandt, the co-founder and CMO at Dream Data. And if there's anyone who knows about doing more with less, it's Steffen. He's going to walk you through the process he and his team at Dream Data use to get maximum value from the content they already have instead of constantly creating new content. Thank you so much for being here, Steffen. Now, over to you.
Steffen,
are you able to hear Steffen?
No. Steffen, I don't think we can hear you. Well, there we go. I think we've checked two of those boxes now.
Yeah. Oh, it appears we still can't hear you yet, Steffen.
We were able to hear him just fine before we went live. There you go. Tech for you. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
Oh,
can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you now.
Can. Thank you, Steffen.
I just shut off my fancy mic and then I'll run on my. So I hope that's okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, as I was just about to say, George and Pallavi, thank you so much for inviting me to your event, and even more for actually suggesting this topic of content repurposing, because it's kind of just become ingrained in kind of how we do marketing, content marketing at Dream Data. And I haven't really been reflecting too much about us actually constantly recycling stuff, but we actually do that quite a big deal. So I've tried today to kind of collect my thoughts around the topic, and I'm going to be sharing very tangibly how we do that at Dream Data. For this to not just be me rambling in a room myself for an hour, please do add your questions or comments or disagreements with me during the session in the chat, and we'll definitely I'll be very happy to take any questions that you guys sit with as we go along. For starters, it'd be interesting to know where you're sitting today. Are you in the US, in Europe like me, or in India or somewhere else? I've prepped a lot of slides that I'm going to walk you through now. If you have questions, as I said, just do use the comment section over there, and make sure to interrupt me if there's anything. But I'll share my screen now, and I'll start my presentation. And George and Pallavi, as I go full screen here, then do just interrupt me if there's really good questions that I should be paying attention to. But yeah, today I'm going to talk about content recycling, and I'm going to talk about how to utilize content recycling to get the maximum impact with minimum resources. The quickest of introductions of myself is probably that I'm a B2B marketing nerd. I'm a CMO and co-founder of a company called Dream Data, where we help our customers understand how they get customers. And I've been working in B2B marketing ever since I graduated in university back in 2010, something like that. So that's my whole career being spent in B2B marketing. And then I've tried a lot of different things. A lot of things work, but then perhaps even more things have failed. So I'm just going to bluntly share all the good and bad stuff I've learned on the road to here. I've prepped this menu for those of you who know a little bit about the Italian kitchen. The typical menu is an aperitivo, a primo, a secondo, and a dolce and cafe. And that's pretty much what I'm gonna walk you through now. I'm gonna start out with a brief introduction of why it is we want to content recycle. Then I'm moving into some principles, or at least my principles about why we do marketing and how we do marketing and how we can do content well. And then I'm gonna get really tangible, showing you all the things that we do at Dream Data to content recycle. And then I'm gonna finish out with basically helping you make a recipe for yourself on how to do content recycling. So that's it. Why do we content recycle? Well, we basically do it because we want to hit two birds with one stone in all simplicity. We want to maintain a practice of repurposing existing content into new formats, extending the lifespan and reach of the content we do. Or in other terms, we basically just want to maximize the value of the content we've already spent a lot of resources creating. And what are the outcomes you get when you content recycle? Well, first of all, for me, it's about maximizing the ROI of the content that you've already invested time in. If you're a small team, instead of having to write new stuff or create new videos, it can be a way to get more efficiency out of your limited resources. If you do long form writing, then it can be a way to pull in more traffic from Google. It can be ways to reach new audiences with the same content, but just different. Now, before I go into showing you all the things that we do at Dream Data in terms of content recycling, I want to share a few principles that I think that are important to be aware of. For me, this is basically the recipe for successful marketing. That is that you make more revenue than what you spend on producing this revenue. And what that means is that I'm basically looking at any kind of marketing activity through this lens. Everything is an experiment that is going to be judged upon this equation. Whether we host a webinar, whether we spend money on ads, or we produce content, or go to a conference, or whatever it might be, this is the equation that we constantly hold ourselves up against. Are we producing more revenue or less revenue than the cost that is associated with this activity? And of course, having this equation in mind, we want to pick the alternative that gives us as much revenue as totally possible. How do you make that equation work? Well, it's fairly simple. One, you can either lower the costs of your activity. When we talk about content, recycling the content into more formats and more editions is a very easy way to make that equation work better. You can also increase the revenue that you get out of the content you make. And to me, that means that you really make sure that the content you have created is both effectively distributed and it also resonates with your ideal customer profile, which is a little bit of a chicken and egg situation, because do you first come up with some great content without knowing that this is the intended ideal customer profile, or do you have to come up with the ideal customer profile before you can actually start seeing your content go viral and get distributed? But both of these two things I really, really think that you should have thought about before you make your content. And let me just give you this advice on behalf of all the marketing activities, or actually on behalf of your whole company. Knowing your ideal customer profile and the personas within this ideal customer profile is absolutely crucial for your company. At Dream Data, we spent too much time in the beginning, if you ask me, not making decisions about the ideal customer profile. We were kind of happy to sell to anybody who walked through the door. And that's fine for a period when you need to pay your bills. But if you really want to see your company accelerating, then you need to establish a company-wide definition of your ideal customer profile. So the product team knows who they're trying to build product for, so that the salespeople should know who they're trying to sell to, so that the marketing team knows who they're trying to attract, so the CS team knows who they're fighting to keep on board. Now, what this means for us in marketing really means that we're able to tailor content, to produce content that really resonate with whatever audience you have. I have that advantage at Dream Data that I'm a B2B marketer myself, and the people we sell to are B2B marketers as well. So I have a pretty good sense of what content makes sense. But if you don't have this natural fit between your skills and your target audience, then you really need to work hard to get a good definition done of your ideal customer profile. On top of this, I think it's very important that you also align the content you produce with the, you can call it maybe the buyer journey of purchasing your product. And what I mean by that is that even though we have an ICP defined and we know that the content resonates with this ICP, this one person also needs to go back to his or her company and convince a bigger buying committee that your product is the right fit for them. So not only do you have to really produce content that absolutely resonates with one or two persons at a company, think about that the whole buyer committee needs to have content that really helps them make decisions whether they should go for your product. Good. Those were the kind of initial principles I wanted to give you. Sorry, I'm coughing a little bit here. I will move on to the next section. And now I'm going to show you how we do content recycling at Dream Data. Was there any questions here I needed to address? Not yet. Just shoot the questions as we go along, or a comment, because I'm happy to pick them up and elaborate anything I've said this far. Now, content recycling. I thought that the best way to show you what it is would be to give a really tangible example of how we do it at Dream Data. So I've picked out the example of LinkedIn Live, which is something we do every single week at Dream Data. We have a show that goes live for an hour on LinkedIn every week, where we invite people that are relevant to our ideal customer profile to come join us for live sessions and talk through various different topics that are relevant to their world. That's typically anything related to B2B marketing. We try to reach out to influencers that have a large reach through their channels. We try to bring on customers. We try to bring on topic matter experts. And this has kind of become a content engine for our company, where we use this to various different ways of creating awareness about what we do. So step one is that you really should know your ideal customer profile and what they're interested in. An example here of a good fit for us is a guy called Richard van der Blom, who's been on our live shows 2 times this year. And Richard talks constantly about organic social selling on LinkedIn, which is a really hot topic for B2B marketers. That's great. And then 2, if you see here on the screen, Richard also has more than 200,000 followers on LinkedIn. So when he goes live and when he shares stuff, there's a huge audience that follows him, and we can kind of piggyback on his audience when people join us live. Now, what do we then do? Well, we first of all Our events on the LinkedIn Live event typically get scheduled 2 to 3 weeks ahead. We don't gate it, so distribution of the shows are a lot easier. So it's just click invite, and people just have to click attend, and they don't have to hand over their email or anything to participate. We do this because we prioritize distribution of the content above anything else. Once the show then goes live, we typically talk for an hour, and we have to this day still not paid a single speaker to join our live show. And I think because we've been doing it consistently for more than 2 years now, every single week, what the one speaker you have, the next speaker stands on the shoulders of. So we build more reach for Dream Data, we build more trustworthiness in our brand, and the speakers can see that famous speakers has been there before themselves. So it gets easier and easier for us to do these to get the speakers on the live. So that's the I think actually let me say something more here. I think one thing is that if you're a single man company, you have to do all the invites to these shows yourself. But if you're working in a company with a bunch of employees or hundreds of employees, you should really encourage your co-workers to help invite people to these events. It's a very nice touch, particularly for salespeople who normally have to talk about, take this sales meeting with me, or how's it going with this proposal. Instead, when we have these live events with relevant content, they can just go to these all the different prospects and say, we actually have a live show coming up that we know are of interest to you. Do you want to join this? And instead of having to deal with this very direct sales conversation, they could just get a soft touch in with people where they can, kind of just get more familiar with the brand. And as these things, as we do, typically go on for an hour, you have prospects, people relevant to what you do, staring at your brand for more than an hour for free. And that generates a very big presence in their minds about what is it, or at least the recognizability of the brand goes up quite significant. Now, once the show is done, here's a good example of some numbers that we've seen when we do the shows. You can see here, there's been 227 people watching it live for free for an hour. But more insane it gets when you look at the watch time that people have consumed the show for 251 hours. That's, if you think about what that would have cost when it comes to buying ads to get the same attention for you, it's absolutely crazy how cheap this method is in terms of attract, or at least raising brand awareness for your company. As I said, just continue to put in questions if you have them as I go along. Now, once the session is done, we do a string of things to recycle the content. We produce a blog post that kind of becomes the content engine of what happens next. The way we produce these blog posts is through a pretty tight process where the live gets transcribed by a service, and then you can probably guess what happens from here in this day and age of AI. Well, we basically take the transcript of the live session and put it into ChatGPT or Gemini, depending on who it is that is writing. And then we get the transcript into a proposed blog post for us that one of our writers, Alexander, sits and reads through and make sure that it actually becomes a really good blog post. What Alexander is also doing during the live show is that she's sitting and noting down all the good one-liners that either the speaker Richard here says or that I say, so that when the show is over, we're ready to hand over those timestamps to our video freelancer, that can help produce video snippets that, one, go into the blog post, so people spend more time on the blog post, but two, we can also utilize these videos across our own channels, my channels, Richard's channel, our employees' channels, and so forth. This blog post we also ship if we feel like it's a good blog post, a relevant blog post, we ship it to our newsletter list. We typically ship a newsletter once a week, where we are able to email something like 17,000 people with this recycled content, because not everybody were aware that this live were happening. They were maybe not able to join it while it was live. So we've kind of collected all the best parts of it and put into a blog post that then becomes an email afterwards. But then, as I said here, then you can see we take these snippets, and for weeks after the live session, we do social posts. Here's an example of us posting from the Dream Data profile. We typically make these snippets just around a minute or maximum 2 minutes, so it's very snackable for the social posting. We actually also use a service called Restream. So this service enables us to stream live to LinkedIn, to YouTube, and to, I insist on calling it Twitter still. So once we hit live on the LinkedIn stream, it actually also get recycled into YouTube and Twitter as well. And so under the live button on YouTube, you'll be able to see the shows live, but all the different snippets and the full edition also goes up on our YouTube channel as well. And you can probably see we're at the moment we're trying to experiment with some AI image generation that is partly successful or partly not successful, but we're trying to learn how to do that YouTube game a bit better. The good thing is that if you have people like Richard, who in his case has more than 200,000 followers, and he likes the videos that we produced for him after the show, then you'd see the speakers, they would quite typically also post these videos multiple times. And that's really when you start to see some ROI of the content recycling, because in his case, he has 200,000 followers, and he takes something that is very branded by us and puts in front of his followers. And it's zero extra effort for us to get these snippets built. Oh yeah, then I got a question now. Can I bring it up on the screen? I'm not sure I can. I'll just read it out loud. How many snippets will you try and generate from each LinkedIn Live? I think that it's somewhere between 3 and 5 snippets. I think you have to think about the purpose. If each snippet is really, really good, then I would make all of them. But the purpose is in general to make a better blog post, but also to enable the speaker to look really smart, so that speaker wants to distribute these snippets. And in this case with Richard, it worked really well. So here's his 3 last videos of various length. He's used all these videos to post on his profile with a superior reach. And I think the key here is that you really need to kind of get everything right. There needs to be a match between the speaker and your audience, a match between the speaker and the topic to your audience, but also the topics that you bring the speaker in to speak about with his or her own audience, so that when you make the extra video snippets, they are actually really willing to share them because they sound smart and they say the right things for their own audience as well. Then why not also put it into a podcast? So we do. We don't necessarily make every single live show that we do into a podcast, but whenever there's a podcast, a live session that goes quite well, we basically also distribute that live show to our podcast, which is called Attributed. if you're listening right now, I would love you to go in and subscribe, or at least browse the shows we have there. We actually have more than 200 shows stored there now with go-to-market leaders in B2B companies. So it's quite interesting. Something maybe a lesson for myself and I want to share with you is that we didn't take the initiative of branding the lives as an actual show before just after this summer, which means that we didn't actively build a following for the podcast until after the summer, which is quite a shame. We just used to kind of say, welcome to another LinkedIn live session with Dream Data, but that didn't kind of connect and kind of continue to build an audience because they were always very time sensitive. We've changed that now. Now we open every live session with saying, welcome to another attributed session by Dream Data. If you like more conversations like this, go subscribe to the podcast that we have, because we'll be bringing out more conversations like this, which you already like. So I hope you see the point of making it become a podcast or an actual show, and makes people see that it's something you want to subscribe to and not just attend this one single event. Cool. Any questions you guys want me to ask right now? Okay, there's a question. Okay, let me read it out loud and see. Not sure if you will cover this later, but what other content forms could you start with? LinkedIn Live or blog post, or what's your view on a good starting point of an ideal content blog that will then be recycled? Good question. I think for something to be recyclable, I'm thinking out loud here, and for me, it's about whatever the content block is. It needs to be juicy, it needs to be dense, it needs to be rich on content. If you only record one little, let's say like a 1-minute interview with somebody, it's very hard to build something on top of that. So I think any kind of long form content, whether that's a blog post or it's a podcast or a video interview, I think that is kind of more suitable to recycle. The good thing about video is that it gives you both a sound file, and it gives you a video file, and you can recycle both. Let me know if that's enough of an answer. I'm happy to go more into it. That was kind of the LinkedIn Live track of content recycling, but there's a lot more that we do in terms of content recycling. And something we've been doing quite a lot has been to recycle a lot of different social posts that our team have been doing over the years. We've had great success with both creating memes, creating jokes, and just producing fun content for LinkedIn. This meme on the left side here was actually my colleague Sam who invented it, but has since become repurposed by half of the B2B marketers on LinkedIn and has been viewed tens of millions of times by now. But it was actually just us playing around with different kind of meme templates, making fun. The good thing here is that any post that is kind of successful for your colleague that's in the same business as you, there's a very high likelihood that you can, let's say, steal or borrow whatever post that they have made and recycle that. Either you can do a straight up a copy paste, or you can copy the text and give it your own spin on your angle to whatever post that they've made. Something I found working really well has been to kind of utilize the evidence of organic posts to make them into ads on LinkedIn, because all the organic posts that your team makes creates is actually the perfect laboratory for finding out what's going to actually work great for many B2B marketers. Because if you have a post that completely fails, it's not going to work better if you put it in front of a cold audience. The opposite is true if you have a post that works great organically. Well, then the likelihood of you, if you've set the right matched audience on LinkedIn, the likelihood of your post also working great as a thought leader ad to this cold audience is quite high. If you look at this screen here, this is essentially the engagement rate on some of our thought leader ads, 13%, which is just completely insane. But that only happens because we know already that it's a great organic piece of content. Let me just bring up this question here. How effective are memes for B2B content? And can a small marketing team recycle so much content, or is it's advisable to look for an external agency? I think memes can be very effective. I have more memes here. Let's just go straight there. And it's, I think if you know your audience really well and you have a sense of humor, it's about just really looking through the internet, Reddit, Instagram, wherever you consume your content, and finding great meme templates. And then it's about you and your team having fun about creating new memes that really demonstrates that you have a sense of humor, but that you also understand your ICP really well. Most memes have, for us, taken somewhere between 2 and 10 minutes to produce, and have sometimes gone on to get millions of views on LinkedIn afterwards. And again, once you get it confirmed that the the organic audience likes your meme, then this becomes perfect material to put ads money behind, because you have already proven that people find these memes funny. Can you outsource it? Well, maybe you can, but you will have to find someone who really, really knows your world and your ideal customer profiles as well as you do. So maybe it's possible, maybe it's not. The reason why I have brought this screenshot here as well is that it's actually, you'd see that it's promoted ads on Reddit. And I've been, during this fall, I've been playing around with running Reddit ads. And what better to put on Reddit than memes? And what I've been trying here is to find relevant subreddits for our industry, B2B marketing, for example. And I've been trying to then take some of the memes that I already know have been appreciated on LinkedIn and put it into an ad on Reddit. And it's been actually surprisingly well received, but it's kind of one of those platforms where I, at least personally, is a little bit afraid of stepping into, because we all know that it can be a bit of a harsh audience, but it has worked quite well. And I think it's because we've already proven out multiple times that this content typically resonates with our target audience. And there's probably not a niche in the world on Reddit where you can't go and find it there. Cool. So much talking in my own little world here. So please do continue to ask the questions. I really appreciate it. Good. That was kind of a bunch of examples. There's a question from Andres. You mentioned knowing our ideal customer profile. Maybe I'm going off the scope, but how often should one validate that profile? I work at an outsourcing company, so even though we have an ideal persona, I don't feel the content is, and then something is missing. But let me start with the how often you set an ideal customer profile. I think to get started with this, I think it's important to know that this doesn't have to be the ideal customer profile forever. I think you can become nervous about making a decision if you make it something like it has to be this ideal customer profile forever. Don't think about it like that, but commit to it for a period. Maybe start with saying it's a 3 months period, And then if you then basically maybe you start one day and then set a meeting in your calendar in 3 months, and then say, let's evaluate the ideal customer profile that we decided. Are we happy with the results we're seeing? Does the message, the content we produce resonate with this audience? Is this audience willing to take sales meetings with us? Do we get new customers? Do the customers we get renew their contracts if we get them within this ideal customer profile? Yes, no. If it seems like nothing is resonating with this ideal customer profile, well, then change it up and do something else. A tangible trick that we had good success with in the beginning was to make actually an antithesis to an ideal customer profile. So instead of saying specifically it's these people that we need to speak to, we can instead say, okay, it's not these people, it's not these people. And then little by little, you start to limit the scope of, okay, who is the actual right people? So if you have trouble naming exactly who the right people are, instead just really write down what really disqualifies the people that you should have as your ideal customer profile. That can be that can be a more tangible way to get started. But thanks for the question, Andres. Good. That's a lot of tangible examples. Now I'm going to try to give you a little bit of a recipe of what you should think about when you content recycle. Yeah, as we just talked about, you need to identify content suitable for recycling. And there's many ways to do this. I think one which I actually didn't write down here, but trust your gut feeling. If you've produced some content and you can really see that it resonates with people, that's probably good pieces to start with. But in general, I'd say do kind of an audit of what is the content we have released the last month or two, and see what has been the most successful. The ones that you kind of feel and know has been the most successful is probably the pieces you want to recycle or copy or do more of. It can be anything from comments on the content to the likes on the content to the click-through rate if you send an email and so forth. I think the most important thing is to get a feeling of what really generates engagement with your target audience. You really need to know the audience so deeply that you know these are the pains that they feel, and if we can address them with some quality content, it's going to resonate together with them. I wrote down a small tip here for your team. Do create some kind of opportunity for everybody to share content that works, that resonates, that engage. So it becomes kind of a fun activity in your company to produce content. We at Dream that we have a Slack channel where we post all the content that anybody at Dream that makes. And whenever it resonates, people post it there, and the other teammates can go and comment and like and share the content as well. But make it fun, support each other while you do this. Then choosing the right content formats for recycling. I think that's I wrote down some ideas here. I think when I think about it again today here, I'd really say think about the resources that you have in your company. What are you good at? Are you good at video? Are you good at audio? Are you good at writing? And base kind of the way to recycle very much on the skills you're the best at. I think we're lucky at Dream Data to both have a writer, a designer, and a videographer, so we can kind of shoot with the full arsenal. But I would definitely focus on, if you're a really small team, either just do the things you're good at or find some freelancers where you can deliver a very clear and simple brief to that can help you take off the content off your hands, and then making them know what they need to do when they receive the content. I'll just skip this one. Yeah, and then as I've talked about a few times, I think a key here to be really effective with your content recycling is really to have a very clear process in mind for how it's done. If it becomes too much questioning and discussion, then the time investment, the resources you've put into the pieces of content increases dramatically. So when we do LinkedIn Live at Dreamleader, it runs very much like a factory. There's a girl, a colleague of mine called Patricia. She runs the project management of the lives. I'm the moderator and speaker, so I show up with questions and readiness to have a conversation. I have Alexandra, who's doing the writing, so she watches the LinkedIn Live as it takes place. She notes down the time spots for when there was good quotes, and then she double checks the quotes before, well, as soon as the live is done. And then we have a freelance videographer ready to take the quotes and make snippets into branded templates of the content. So whatever it is that you content recycle, and it doesn't have to be perfect in the beginning, but do think about, can we start to write down a process of what is it that we do when we want to recycle stuff that will make it incredibly more efficient. Yeah, and I just want to state it one more time. Do not forget to figure out the distribution of your content, because you can make the world's greatest content, but if no one sees it, it's not really valuable for your company. So not only do you have to have a tight process of producing quality content, you need to figure out the distribution component as well. Is it the co-speaker who shares it? Is it your newsletter list that gets activated? Is it your social profiles? Is it your newsletter? You need to figure these things out, because if no one consumes your content, it's not going to have any. Yeah, George is asking, what was the first thing you started repurposing from the LinkedIn Live? Was it a blog? Was it a LinkedIn post? What was the first thing? It probably started with the social sharing of the actual event. So not only did we create the event, but the colleagues also started sharing that event on LinkedIn and inviting people to join these events. And then little by little, we started thinking, well, if we make sure that it's a high quality speaker, that speaker has a good network, how can we utilize that network? Well, we can get the speaker to do a social post, but we can also empower the speakers with great content that that speaker actually wants to post in their audience as well. Little by little, we figured out more and more components of how to do the distribution. Yeah, distribution. You really just need to figure this out, because there's no kind of purpose of recycling the content if there's no good distribution done. It might also come in the sense that the blog post that you create, well, maybe you need to think about what are the SEO optimization you can do of that post. So an example is I had last week I interviewed a CMO who was really good at organizing, doing OKRs, objectives and key results for marketing. And the blog post that is coming out about that piece is going to have the URL called dreamleader.io/marketing OKRs or something like that, so that it also tries to rank on that key. And something I didn't touch upon yet is the opportunity also to repurpose all this content into different kinds of communities. Nowadays there's so many Slack communities out there for various different niches. There's Reddit, there's Facebook groups, etc. So maybe start making a long list of places where your content is relevant, not so that when it comes out, you can also seed it into these different communities. And then there's another question here. What's your experience with the ideal time span for recycling? If you could talk about your experience with intensity or frequency things. So one example comes to mind right now, which is that a few weeks back, we did a live called something around marketing budgeting and planning for 25, which is something that every B2B marketer sits with right now. We've been really busy both doing the live, but also getting that blog post and all the material related to it done very fast because there was a seasonality to it. But I think in general, I don't think you need to hurry too much about recycling unless there's kind of a burning platform of a certain season that really lends itself to posting these things. But I would look at whatever it is that you produce and think about, is it still timely to post this 3 months later than since it was made? Good. Actually, another little trick that I just wanted to share with you. If you're producing reviews, if you're producing customer testimonials, case studies, etc., this can also become a very easy resource to turn into social posts on all kinds of platforms. In this case here, as we do software at Dream Data, the G2 reviews are often filled with amazing pitches, value propositions for what we do. So I would say once a month or once every second month, I just take a screenshot of a G2 review and post it on LinkedIn, because the customer is already doing all the pitching that is needed for us. This can then also, this Sebastian guy is very happy. So what I could also do after having collected the review for G2, we could probably also write a case study for our own website and get his permission to put it on our own website. So the opportunities to recycle are really infinite. What do you measure when you measure content? I would say for small businesses, solo entrepreneurs, I would really just focus on making sure that the engagement is as high as possible. And what does engagement mean? That means that the ideal customers, the ideal personas for whatever service you have, you see that these people start engaging. They start commenting, liking, sharing the content you make. Because if that's happening, then you know that you're producing the right type of content, and you can continuously just start to do more of that. That is not kind of a very, it's not like super quantifiable, but when we're talking small businesses like we're doing here today, I would really just focus on taking screenshots of all your content success, sharing these links of content success with your coworkers or your family or whatever it is. So you constantly build up a qualitative bank of evidence that your content works well. And then do not forget this piece of math when you do any kinds of go-to-market. Anything you do is really an experiment. You need to be able to produce more revenue out of the activities you do than it costs you to make this. That means, can we do things cheaper? Well, we can if we recycle our content. Can we get more revenue or more engagement out of the content? Yes, we can, if we really know our ICP really well. If we really make sure to distribute our content, then we can think about all our activities through this piece of math of basically trying to spend our time where we get the most impact out of the time spent. So to round it off and do ask your last questions, there's still a little bit time. I'd say content recycling is a great opportunity for B2B solo entrepreneurs and SMBs to grow demand. How do you do it? Well, starts by gaining really, really deep knowledge about your ideal customer profile and the personas you're trying to target. Once you know them, you really need to produce quality content that these people really see resonating with the pains that they feel every day. The outcomes of these are really that you will start to see a lot higher ROI of all the different kinds of activities you do in your go-to market. I'll stop my presentation now, but I can see there's a few more questions that I'll bring up.
Yeah, we do. We've got one from Priyanka, and sorry for leaving you in your own world for a while there, Stefan. We're all very intently listening,
That's
and
good.
thank you to everyone for dropping your comments in. But yes, one from Priyanka, and what's
Yeah,
your take on the company page content getting less preference over individuals' posts on LinkedIn, and what should someone do about it?
I'd say first of all, it's a fact. Company pages are definitely being down prioritized on all the social platforms. I think that's because the platforms know that people want to follow people more than they want to follow brands. So if you want to be successful with repurposing content, you need to get your team and yourself on board, because otherwise you're just fighting a very uphill battle because the algorithms do not like company pages. When that's said, I would always continuously publish every single day stuff from my company profile, because the first thing I do when I validate other companies is that I want to see that they are alive, and I want to see a pulse. And if there's kind of last post was 14 months ago, then my trust in this company immediately goes very far down. So I'd still keep all these company profiles active, but the main distribution is probably going to come from employees taking part.
Very interesting. Great question. Another one I've got, Stefan, is you've been doing your LinkedIn lives pretty much every week for 2 years straight. How many did you say? You've done over 200 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's insane. What's been the secret to your consistency there? Because like that is incredibly consistent.
Getting if it's not yourself who's a great organizer, then get a great organizer on your team. For me, I have a colleague called Patricia, and she always manages everything for us. I'm great at getting ideas and then showing up and doing an interview, but just running the same process week on week, I'm not good at. So it's a way about like getting the right people on your team, or at least part of your freelance group, to help you out running a structured process. That's probably my secret ingredient.
And can you take us back to day one of that first LinkedIn live that you did? First of all, why did you choose LinkedIn Live as kind of your, I guess, like your pillar piece of content? And second, how prepared were you for that very first LinkedIn Live that you did?
It's a good question. It actually, as many things started, it started with a bet with a friend of mine, where I think we were in October or something like that, and I told him, if we do this once a week for the rest of the year, you owe me a beer. And that was when like almost no one was doing LinkedIn lives, and we just kind of, okay, let's just start it, and then like texting our friends, do you want to join for a live on this day, and so forth. So we just started a little bit ad hoc, but as with many marketing activities, that's probably the best way to start, and just keep the costs low and try it out and see how it works. And if you start seeing that it, when you become an experienced marketer, it's like kind of sharks when they smell blood in the water. Is kind of, okay, there's something here. How can we make it a little bit better than week on week? So it started with a bet, and we could see that something that resonates here. What if we do XYZ more? What if we get bigger influencers or smarter people, or invite more people to it? Then we can get even more value out of these things. So, but stupidly, it just started with a bet that then escalated into a bigger content pillar for us.
And I love your advice, Stefan, around, I mean, you wish that kind of from the beginning or much earlier on, you had branded that LinkedIn Live, right? And made it very integrated into Dream Data. So people felt like it was a show. They felt like they could turn up and they knew what they were getting.
Yeah, that's kind of also that also came out of I was watching our national football team together with two friends, and they were like, why don't you just call it a specific name? Because you're doing it every single week. And oh fuck, yeah, you're right. Okay. Then we just started to like wrap it into like the whole invite says that now it's an attributed podcast. There's a show note link to where people can subscribe. I start and finish the show with saying it is this thing. And we can see, you know this, George, because you have your own podcast. It takes a lot of work to build a following. So we should have made that decision earlier, but it's a bit about what you do first. You first need to start. We just didn't arrive at that conclusion fast enough, if you ask me, to actually stand by that it's actually a thing that we're doing. But if I were to start over, I would have branded it a bit earlier.
That's a point that Jess Cook just made in the previous session. She said, "Don't be afraid to experiment. You're not Coca-Cola. Like, this one experiment that you're doing is not going to damage your brand forever. Not everyone's going to see it, right? So don't be afraid to have a go, even if you don't have it all figured out."
No, I strongly believe that as well. You need to generate a culture of safety, that it's okay to experiment. It's okay to have fun. If your gut feeling tells you an idea, just try it out. Just keep the cost low and see how it goes. If it goes well, then you can start to double, triple, etc.
Unless someone else has another question in the comments, I've got one last one for you, Stefan. You got Richard van der Bloem, had him a couple of times on your LinkedIn Live. He's the guy who had a couple 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, gave you guys fantastic reach, complimentary audiences. He's probably a bit of a whale in terms of a complimentary business. To do that outreach, to connect with him and to get him to say yes to coming on your show, how did you do that? Did that come from you? Are you the one who's sending that invitation? Are you able to share how that worked?
So it can happen in multiple ways. Patricia, who organizes the live, we kind of ad hoc just send her names where we say try pitching them and see what happens. We also had Byron Sharp from Australia, which is a very famous marketing director, and that was just a cold outreach email to his institute, and he said yes. So we do kind of like bi-monthly or quarterly like wish lists of people, and then Patricia just grinds the pitch. And other times it's people in our network that we've engaged with on LinkedIn, and start to get a little bit friendly, and then you text them with hey, do you want to join us for a live? So I think as with anything, there's a conversion rate to your ask, but if you don't ask, you don't know. So it's a little bit like if you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So just fire off those invites to join you and see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Stefan. That's a wrap for this session. I really, really appreciate all those insights. It's very clear to me how to do that content recycling process from that pillar piece of content and repurposing to those different channels. You don't have to have everything worked out right from the beginning. Thank you, Stefan. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for the invite, and everybody just reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want to continue the conversation.
Fantastic. Okay, everyone. Well, coming up next is our last session for day one at Full Circle. We'll have Madeline Work talking to us about how she's got everyone at Chili Piper into a content creator. You don't want to miss this one. You don't have to change screens at all. Just leave it right here. This session is going to end and the next one's going to start very shortly. Catch you there.